So let's talk Tua Tagovailoa, one of the great quarterbacks of his generation, the de facto number one pick on mock draft boards as far back as I can see, as far back as we looked at when he was going to be eligible. He was the number one consensus pick. Injures himself, desperately sad, dislocated hip, which is a serious injury, takes him out of course for the season. How far does this take him out of the draft race for 2020?
Well, on Monday, the talk was out of the first round. Now, that was before he was going to have surgery. Everyone seems to be happy with how that surgery has gone, as happy as you can be at this stage. Obviously, a lot of it is about the rehabilitation rather than simply the work done under the knife. There's now a lot of talk that he would be mid-first round. Now, that's obviously totally different to going in the second round, because if you go at the top of the second round, you're still being picked by the same sort of teams that would be picking at the top of the first round.
The Bengals.
Yeah, exactly. So, and, we were talking in the past about, the Dolphins and tank for Tua and all that sort of stuff, and the fact they've actually won some games and taken themselves out of Tua consideration may have worked out rather nicely for them. If he goes mid-round, then he will go to a team that is not awful, but a team that is outside the playoffs, maybe a team that is rebuilding, maybe a team that is one piece away from being a playoff team.
The Tennessee Titans, potentially.
Exactly.
So, do you think that a team is, based on what's happened in the last 48, 72 hours, and the prognosis improving, do you think it's more likely that a team is going to gamble and take him in the first round, or he'll still drop? What do you think is more likely to happen?
I think now teams are more likely to gamble, but it is a fluid situation. Right now, speaking this week, yes, I think probably mid-first round. But as his rehabilitation goes along, and every team doctor will be running tests on him, all 32 teams will be investigating, because he is in play now for every single team, which wasn't the case before. If you were the New England Patriots or whoever, you're not going to be, trading up to get the number one overall pick. But now anyone could pick him. So every single doctor is going to go through absolutely everything with him. And on draft day, if he starts to fall, if we're kind of thinking, he will go mid-round, if he starts to drop, if he's doing his Aaron Rodgers and he's sat there and he's waiting to be picked, then it probably means that all those team doctors have seen something that is bothering them a little bit, enough to drop him out of the first round.
Is he going to look as moody as Aaron Rodgers did as he drops down the first round?
I don't think anyone will look as moody as Aaron Rodgers. Or kind of, he wasn't dressed very well either. And of course, that's been a chip on Aaron Rodgers' shoulder ever since, and maybe it's helped drive him to be the player he is.
No doubt it has. What you mentioned, the Patriots, sneaky possible destination now for Tua?
Well, do you know what? The thing is, if you are drafted first overall, and you know who I always think of? Vinny Testaverde, because it's the first draft I remember reading about as a kid. He was the first overall picked in 1987. He came out of the University of Miami, the U. They'd been dominant. He'd been fantastic, and he was picked by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who were just a joke franchise at the time. They seemed to have, picking the
old
top
logo
three.
As well, wasn't
exactly,
it?
the old creamsicle,
logo.
Bucco Bruce. They picked in the top three every season, it seemed. And he had so much pressure, and he was not a superstar, really, for the Buccaneers. But he had a very, very, very long career.
Right.
But the whole thing of sort of, if you're the best player, obviously there's a chance you are going to end up on a team that is absolutely dreadful.
David Carr, Texans, is the blueprint of that, right?
Who just got battered every single week. It was like, okay, this is going to be your franchise, but they didn't have any talent to block for him. He didn't have anybody to throw the ball to, and it was brutal. So if Tua Tagovailoa was a Bengal, he was fit and he was a Bengal, he's not going to turn that team around by himself. There are so many holes all over. Whereas if he goes to a team like the Titans, for example, then they're a team that are kind of halfway there already. So that would be great for his kind of future win percentage. It'll mean he will earn less on his rookie contract, but rookie contracts have kind of been neutered in recent seasons anyway. Sure. You get that huge payout with your second contract. If he's a Bengal and it's a disaster because there's no talent around him, that second contract, it may not even come. So if he ends up at a half-decent team, that second contract could be a monster one. So it's going to be very interesting for those teams who are kind of middling at the moment.
Final point on Tua. Is there a chance that he doesn't get drafted next season? Not because teams don't want to take him because he decides I'm going to stay back in college for another year.
He is draft eligible. He's got 1 year of eligibility left. And what he could do is be rehabilitated at Alabama where he's comfortable, and he will be looked after by Nick Saban, and will be put in situations where he is not asked to do too much right at the beginning and he can kind of grow into it. However, I think it's unlikely simply because he might play and become re-injured, and then that will be it. He will never get that NFL contract. I think he's more likely to take that guaranteed money by going into the draft and rolling the dice than to try to rehabilitate at Alabama. But it is an option, and if any team could persuade somebody of his caliber to come back and have one final season, it would be Alabama with Nick Saban.
Hope you enjoyed the Nat Coombs Show presented by Paddy Power Fantasy. There's plenty more where that came from. Just click subscribe to ESPN UK and you won't miss a trick.